It's time to build another gaming PC, and this one is sponsored by NZXT. I'm super excited to get this one assembled because this is a white themed build. You can see our H7 Flow here has pretty much totally been whited out. There are white case fans even included and white cables attached to those case fans. That's the kind of attention to detail we're working with here. We have a white motherboard, we have a power supply here. This one's not white, but you're not gonna see it anyway. We've got a Kraken X63 AIO. We've got a capture card here we'll talk more about. This is an external one. Some white F140 RGB fans. It's gonna look pretty sweet, and those who are OGs to the channel will remember our first Walter White PC build had a white theme to it we built, and I think it was the original NZXT S340, so kind of paying some homage to that with the H7 Flow here. Great airflow case, again, totally whited out. You can get this in black as well. Clear tempered glass here. It's gonna look sweet. I can't wait to get started. Are you ready? Stay with me. To get rid of that annoying Windows activation watermark, head on over to VIP SCD Key and purchase a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for a fraction of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, enter your product key into your PC settings window, and say bye-bye to the watermark. And be sure to use our offer code SKGS for a sweet discount. I want to kick things off by talking about the centerpiece of this build, that is the NZXT H7. This is the Flow variant, which means it has a very airy perforated front panel. You get also two included 120mm fans. These are only voltage controlled, no PWM support here, but it is nice that they are totally whited out to match the remainder of this white variant. So it's the Flow case, it's also the white version of the case, and I think this is the ultimate combo. It looks so freaking good. You can see the iconic cable bar is still here from the NZXT lineup. The S340 lineup, I guess, is what this is paying homage to, but it's nice to see it's still there. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but at this point, I'm so used to it, it would just feel weird if it wasn't included. We'll get 7 PCI slots at the rear, so by definition, a mid-tower. We're gonna have perforations here at the basements. If you wanna flip your power supply fan side up, you could totally do that. This will support up to ATX motherboards, by the way, and you can fit full 360mm fan rad combos up front through that cutout right there, so you can slide things all the way down. Your hard drive cage is just behind that. So yeah, I don't see too much in the way of limiting hardware here. Another awesome feature, the fact that you can mount fans all the way across the top of this thing. This is kind of like a hybrid, if you will, between like the H710 and the H510. The H510 only allows you to mount one fan up top here, and it was closer to the rear, so you couldn't really do much in the way of like AIO mounting up top, but this case gives you access all the way across. You can see they cut off this cable bar here, so you get about 2 to 3 inches worth of clearance. Pretty sweet. Also, check this out with the left and right panels. You can remove them by simply pulling back here. You see this little indention. You can just pull there back, and the feet are held in at the bottom. They'll just slide right up. So very easy to get this situated. Totally toolless. Got to push a little hard, but yeah, I like that. No screws. And lastly, check it out here behind the motherboard tray. It looks like cable routing is going to be a breeze thanks to these very large cable combs, Velcro straps. You've got tons of them all over the place, even up top here for fans that you mount maybe up top or at the rear. It's going to look pretty darn clean, and it looks like it's going to be very easy to manage these. Now, apart from other NZXT hardware, which I'm sure you've seen before, we have a Corsair Vengeance kit of DDR5 5600 megahertz, 16 gig DIMMs a piece. That's 32 gigs in total. And for our CPU, we have an Intel Core i7-12700K. For storage, we use a WD Blue SN550 500 gig NVMe. It could go with larger storage, but again, we're trying to keep the cost somewhat manageable here. You could always upgrade with like a 1 terabyte hard disk drive later, and that'll only cost you an extra $40 or so. Lastly, this is an RTX 3060 Ti, and normally I'd hesitate to show you a card like this on the channel because, well, recently these have been just like in insanely high prices that you can't really justify them, right? I mean, even if you could find one new, they were marked up 2 or 3 times MSRP, which is just ridiculous. But nowadays, cards are much more attainable. They are much less expensive because we are no longer being constrained by the mining demand. We're also not being constrained by as big a silicon shortage as before because manufacturing is more or less ramped up now. You can find these new, mostly, for decent prices. Not at MSRP, but pretty darn close. We'll have a link below if you want to check it out. Let's get our motherboard out of its box. Ooh la la, check out that beautiful white shroud. CPU installed. That's a nice looking socket. It would be a shame if somebody screwed it up. I'm gonna try my best to just gently drop it in. We'll lower the socket cover. This is always kind of sort of cringy here. Yeah, because that always happens. But yeah, there we go. Save this, by the way, in case you want to recycle the board or give it to someone else. Yeah, it's nice to have. We'll also get RAM situated here. Slots 2 and 4 are the... Wait, what? This is a DDR4 board, not a DDR5 board. What am I doing? I suppose then we can just switch to this kit here, 4 DIMMs if I can get them situated. Of course, they're Dom Platts in white, so they look really nice with this white motherboard. Give me a 1, a 2, 3, and a 4. Also, can't forget our M.2, which will slot right in here. Not totally toolless, because we do have 2 Phillips screws to take care of. We do have a functional, more like just a metal heat slab. And that sits right there. And then 2 Phillips screws. Go ahead and fast forward through this, Jeremy. No one wants to see me torque some screws down. But once this is taken care of, you've got this little cover that simply snaps into place because it's magnetic. I love that. We'll gently set the platform in the case, and oh my, this is already looking so dang good. Love the white on white. It just fits. Of course, it's an NZXT motherboard with an NZXT case. I mean, come on. Also take care of some simple front I/O wiring. It's nice that these USB 3.0 headers are oriented at 90 degrees because, well, yeah, you can barely see it now. The build's looking pretty darn sweet right now, no doubt about it, but we still have obviously major components missing. We're gonna tackle the AIO next. I think I'm gonna mount it up top because it's a 280mm AIO, and it just looked kind of weird not having like the full 360 up front. So we'll mount a top rad, and then we'll put 3 extra white RGB fans up front so we get a bit more color in the build. We can remove this top panel, again, totally toolless, very nice, and we'll get our AIO prepped for install. I think I'm gonna have the tubes run down the back side of the case just to keep our runs a tad cleaner. Oh yeah, this looks pretty good. Tighten things down. Oh yeah, I dig it. We gotta fix these cables though, but yeah, I dig it. CPU block situated, and yes, we do have thermal paste pre-applied. We're just gonna roll with that for now. You can very easily remove this front fan bracket with a couple Phillips screws. There we go. And we'll get these beautiful F140 RGBs in there. Here we go. Ooh la la, looking nice. Couple Phillips screws, and we'll get these cables routed. Up next is the NZXT C1000 Gold power supply. Now, to be clear, 1000 watts is overkill for a combination of hardware like this. The 12700K is gonna be a bit spicy on power draw, but the 3060 Ti is actually pretty efficient, relatively speaking. So I'm expecting somewhere in the ballpark of like 600 to 700 watts to be the sweet spot for a rig like this. We're only gonna consume, you know, maybe 400 to 500 at the very peak if you're like overclocking everything, but I'd say 700 watts going to be your sweet spot. I just wanted to preface this by saying, yeah, the 1000 watt is overkill. That said, this is still a fully modular unit. It's also very compact given the wattage, which is nice, and it's 80+ gold certified. We'll slide the unit in here from the right side. I like that there's no fancy like bracket or anything at the thread everything through the back. I used to think that was cool for some reason, but it actually ends up just taking a bit more time getting things situated. So this way it's very straightforward. We'll take 4 screws and tighten it from the rear. Take care of the 8-pin EPS up top. It's a tight squeeze, but I think we're good to go. Can't forget our 24-pin. Gonna carefully bend this around and connect to the header. Last on the agenda is our RTX 3060 Ti Founders Edition model. I really like the way these cards look. I'm not really a fan of this like proprietary connector here. I think that looks a tad ugly, but otherwise a pretty darn looking good card. We'll install in the uppermost full-length PCIe slot, something like that right there. Oh yeah. And we will connect to power. I believe that's it. That's all we have to do. Well, apart from cable manage, which I'll take care of right now. What's that? Oh, you want to see it just jump? You want us to jump straight to when it's ready to go? Okay, cool. All right, 3, 2, 1. It doesn't look much different. We already kind of cable managed as we went. This is a little messy here, and it's a little bunched up here, but yeah, it works, okay? It works. We only needed a few zip ties. Pretty much everything else you're gonna need for cable managing is already included in the case. I should mute my phone. Why is that ringtone on? So here's one more shot from the right side, straight on. I'll try installing the left side panel. Let's see how easily we can snap this into place. Again, totally toolless. I love how easy it is. And here is our shot from the left side. So looking pretty darn good. We'll straighten these cables out, or these tubes out a tad. This kind of bothers me, but this isn't NZXT's fault, just because we're working with the weird proprietary connector. But other than that, I like this. I actually like that the card is not white. I was a little worried about that just being such a clashing piece of hardware, but we do have a nice black accent on top here, and that matches some of the black accents in the motherboard and such. And then this lighter silver color, especially in the light, looks really good next to the white in the case. I do think custom white sleeve cables would have been the icing on the cake, or heck, even just extensions, but I wanted to show you that just using the black stock cables can still look good in an all-white build because we still have, obviously, some of those black accents across the build. So now that everything is in the H7 Flow, it is time to fire the system up for the first time. Hopefully it posts, and from there we'll run a few benchmarks. Just want to show you a few games. Not going to run the whole suite, but just to give you an idea of what a 12700K plus 3060 Ti is capable of. It's actually a really good combination here. It's not unbalanced by any means. You can get away with a lot of 1440p gameplay, maybe even squeak out some 4K in the right in-game setting. So let me get my cables and my portable monitor. Power switch at the rear and power button up front. There it goes. Oh yeah, I love that. We've got white LEDs in the fans, and that just helps illuminate the interior of the build. Uh-oh. Hey, there we go. That's more like it. I should probably pick a storage drive in the future that doesn't already have an operating system on it. Well, this one does, but this is specifically for my latest Intel rigs. Also, I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick this up. I dropped the ISO all the way down so you could see the LEDs in these modules here. I got this nice sweeping effect going on. I think that's a nice subtle way of breaking up the otherwise white and black theme. Just a small bit here on the north side of the motherboard, looking pretty sweet. And like I said before, these Kraken X63 fans set to white by default just helps illuminate everything else in the build so we can see what's going on. Now for the gameplay footage you're about to see, I'm going to be recording everything with NZXT's brand new external capture card, the Signal 4K30. Records up to 4K 30 FPS or 1080p 60 or higher. You can run your HDMI cable into this. Remember, this being external means you don't need extra PCIe slots, which means you could work this in, let's say, an ITX build or even a micro ATX build where space is rather limited. If you have a capture card that has to connect to your motherboard and you have a smaller board, well, you're kind of SOL. But in this case, you can just run this thing externally. You could even use this with consoles if you wanted. In the box, you'll get the capture card itself. You can see a very small footprint, HDMI in and out, along with a USB Type-C port. This is for power. You'll also get an extra HDMI cable to run either, well, you can use it either from your graphics card to the card or from the card to your screen, so you get pass through there. And you also get a USB Type-A to Type-C cable. You'll run one side of this, of course, into the capture card. The other side of this, you could just run into your PC so that it receives power that way. You don't need an external brick or anything like that. We're going to start things off with 3D Mark Time Spy. Our score at the end of the day was pretty darn good, better than 69% of all submitted results at 11,031. Graphics score was just under 11,000, and CPU score was just over 11,000, just to show you how well balanced these two components are. We're just above the very large bump in Time Spy score submissions. You can see we're pretty much in line with the, quote, high-end gaming PC for 2020 that 3D Mark has labeled here. Now, a game I wanted to test was Shadow of the Tomb Raider, mainly because we have DXR built into here, so ray tracing, as well as DLSS. Now, DLSS, the super sampling, is going to be able to alleviate some of the stress on the graphics card, on the system overall, because much of these games that have DLSS support have been trained via an AI. Thanks to the tensor cores and things built into these cards, we're able to get a much better looking image with less hardware taxation. That said, our frame rate is over 100 FPS. It's very comfortable there, and this is with DXR enabled, set to medium, medium settings across the board. Now, as the detail of the village increases, the camera pans in a bit more, you'll notice that frame rate drops to around 100 FPS, but I think this is still very playable. Of course, you could just disable DXR outright and your frame rate would jump up quite a bit. Also, bear in mind, this benchmark is not indicative of actual in-game performance. This is more or less just a standardized way of comparing 2 or 3 different platforms at the same time. Nonetheless, I think the results speak for themselves. This combination of hardware, it works. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone at this point here in 2022. Another thing I'll add is that the system runs very quiet while under any sustained load, especially during the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. I mean, this AIO really wasn't having to work too hard. It was the graphics card that was mainly taking the hit here, and we have plenty of airflow up front. Having an airy case overall might seem a bit counterintuitive for a quiet system because, well, you can easily hear inside of it, right? Because there are a bunch of holes punched everywhere. But that just means that your fans don't have to spin as fast. They don't have to move as much air into the build or work as hard to do that. The effort here is minimal, and as a result, it kind of balances things out. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for a heavier end build, something that's going to consume a lot of power, run fairly hot. get yourself an H7 Flow, you won't be disappointed. With that, if you want to build a system just like this one, we'll have all these parts linked in the video description, as well as NZXT's Signal 4K30 if you want an external capture card for doing some of the things that we showed you earlier, right? Just capturing footage. It's pretty much just peace of mind there, not having to worry too much about having your system taxed while it is also gaming, because that will cut into your frame rate. So that's why having a capture card, whether it be internal or external, is pretty important there. If you care a lot about your frame rate, you don't want to see it dip while you're just capturing your screen, let's say in OBS or something like that. So all these parts will link below if you want to build something similar to this one. Remember that the Flow, or the H7 in general, not just the Flow variant, comes in either white or black. You can kind of mix it up if you want. If you don't like white components, they obviously offer the standard black ones as well. Let me know what you think about this build here and what you would do different, and maybe what you're currently sporting in your rig. If you're thinking about upgrading a case, again, the H7 Flow in particular is one I would definitely go after. It's a bit larger for a mid-tower, but not too large to the point where there looks like it's a ton of wasted space. Especially if we had like a front-mounted 360mm radiator, there would just be a lot of just consumed real estate in here, so I think it would make the build look very filled out, and that's always the best for me. Aesthetically, I don't like seeing too much dead space. It just looks a bit weird. So good on NZXT for improving a case that was already pretty darn good to begin with, and it is now much more airflow centric. Thanks so much for watching. Again, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Give this one a thumbs up and stay tuned for the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.